Welcome back, everyone. We're back on YouTube and LinkedIn with another exciting episode of the Top Innovator Series. This is where we dive into proven leadership strategies and innovation. And of course, we hear from the brilliant minds behind all of that. My name is Josef Martens, and I'm excited to introduce our guest today. With us today is Don Cox. Don is an advisor to Autobridge Systems, an AI-powered application that revolutionizes the way accounting data are managed and analyzed. Before that, he has held the role of CIO, CISO, and other tech executive roles for various private sector and government organizations. And today, we're thrilled to have Don with us. Don, it's a pleasure to have you in the conversation here.
It's a pleasure to be here, Joseph.
Don, the topic is leadership. You're clearly super successful and accomplished in your journey as a leader. When you look at your own journey and you reflect on that, what do you think are some of the ingredients for this success? What got you to where you are today?
It's a great question. Often get asked when you interview for jobs or other things. It's for me comes down to my experience in the life. So when I look back at my childhood sports and being in positions in sports where you take on a leadership role because of you're a gifted player or just your coach tells you, hey, go take charge. Comes from your family. Watching my grandfather be in charge of different things. He was a volunteer firefighter and chief of fire chief, commissioner. My mom in some of her leadership roles. But I would say the biggest influence is when I joined the military.
Okay.
The example that the military sets for you on how to be a follower, right? And then later on, as you grow, you attain rank to be a leader. So that's kind of the foundation. Then going to college to go get a
Mm-hmm.
degree, whether it be a bachelor's or a master's, especially if you're taking a management degree or an MBA. There's some classes there, some books you read, and there's some really good books that I've read over the years, and some self-exploring, raising kids. I have a son and a daughter, so helping raise them, and then just the roles that I've had over the years. So since 2006, when I left the police department, I've been in leadership roles, and so how do I influence people? How do I help them to become successful? And so when I look at the culmination of where I'm at today and
Yeah.
why I have 60 people on LinkedIn that have recommended me and why people would leave their jobs and work for me, it's really because I treat them how I would want to be
Yeah.
treated. I empower them. I help them grow. I train them so well that they could leave, but treat them so good that they don't want to, which I stole from one of my mentors. And really too, it's aligning yourself with good leaders and following them and listening to them, and then the bad leaders you have not doing those things. So, and it's constant, constant learning, constant iterating, being humble. I'm a person that I will rake rocks and pick up cigarette butts. I learned that from the military. I'm a person as a vice president or C-level executive, I will go into the data center and pull cable and pull and rack and stack equipment, and just people see that, and tons and tons of comments. So for me, that's kind of the journey. Obviously,
Yeah.
this is not the first time that I've had this conversation, but
Yeah.
if anybody asks me, what is leadership? It's servant, being a servant leader. That's the word I always forget, when I interview, and is being a servant leader. I am there to make you successful, right? Which in turn makes the
Yeah.
company successful.
Yeah. So many things in what you said there. And one of the first things I heard was a really long journey starting from childhood experiences in sports and then building on that in various progressive steps. When you think of all these steps, was there a surprise at some stage? A surprise in terms of how leadership works? Was there a situation where you thought you had an idea of how this would play out? You had a clear idea going in how things would unfold, and it ended up being completely different?
Yeah, isn't that every time? and I, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and a person quoted. He was a boxer. I can't think of his name at the moment, but he's like, everybody has a plan until the first punch gets thrown, you know,
Mm.
and then it goes out the window. So,
Okay.
I guess this is kind of one of those flaws that I have, when people ask you what flaws do you have, I tend not to focus on the things that went negatively. I learn from them, and I hope not to make the same mistake. Um, so I guess here would be one. This is kind of learning when you're being a leader doesn't necessarily mean you're leading other people. It means you're also working with people at your same level, right? Your peers,
Right.
influencing them
Yep.
and making sure that things that need to get done are getting done. And my last boss, the CIO for a company I was at previously, he was always a person that, look, if something needed to get done and nobody wanted to do it, he's like, I'll pick up and I'll start it and I'll get it going, right? So, um, yeah, along those lines, let's see. We there was a couple of us doing a startup company, and you put too much trust in another individual, and you are being told by them that things are getting done. But
Okay.
like my last boss said, he said, inspect what you expect. So if
Mm.
you expect something to be happening, right? Yes, you trust people are getting done, but you need to set up gateways where you're
Yeah.
checking. Are these things getting done? Can you show me physically, tangibly that these things are getting done? And I've seen it time and time again in the news where, you know, we thought that somebody was
Yeah.
covering that area and or doing that, and come to find out they didn't. But then the leader says, well, that person was a leader and I expected them to do their job and I shouldn't have to check up on them. Well, are you really being a good leader if you're not making sure the program you're responsible for, regardless if that's a CEO of another company or whatever? Yeah, just hey, checking in on you. How you doing? How are things going? Can I help you? You know, so that's you know, kind of a roundabout without naming names and other things. One of the things where I expected somebody to be doing something, I didn't check up on them to make sure it was getting done, and it wound up causing me angst and problems. Now,
Mm.
another part of leadership is have a backup plan, right? Have plan A,
Yep.
B, C, D, E, F, G, and be able to adapt and overcome. It's another word, you learn in life, you learn in the military. So, yeah.
Yep. You mentioned several people already, or several pieces of advice that you picked up from bosses or mentors. I'm curious, what's the highlight tip or advice that you received when you think back to the various mentors or trusted advisors you had? What's something that still sticks with you in terms of the advice that they've given you?
Another good question I wasn't really prepared to answer, so I need to get better at these. Um, I think really it's the individuals that you work with, whether they are in your specific area or they're in other areas, right? Always for yourself, always be learning. And if you're always
Mm-hmm.
learning and other people see that you're always learning, and make that public, right? You're taking new classes. So
Yep.
artificial intelligence
Yep.
came out 2, 3 years ago. We started looking into it as a leadership team. We went and we took an immersive course, classes, hired some people to come in, and we learned so that we knew the terminology, we knew the technology,
Yep.
we knew what to say. So the lead by example, right? That's probably something I learned from the
Mm-hmm.
military. Always be out in front, never behind. So it's a combination of more of the things I learned in the military about how to lead, and the training that they sent me to. How to counsel people, how to have conversations with them.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Start out with, hey, you're doing a really great job, but need you to fix these things, and then finish up with, um, here's the action plan to get it done, and then follow up.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
so yeah, those are some of the things that have kind of stuck with me. It's people, right? How do you get people to do what you want? That's leadership, right? Without threatening them, without um, punishing them or putting demands on them. So how do you get them to just want to be there with
Yep.
you, want to do things for you?
Yep. Yep. Get them to want something that maybe they haven't wanted to do before. Yep.
Yeah,
There was one
I've
thing.
had a lot of those.
Mhm,
Yeah, people didn't think like I didn't think I could be a manager. Now they're a very successful manager, right?
exactly.
And they took my style and they're applying it, right, in some way. So they're thank you for that example is what I
Yep.
get.
Yep. You mentioned always be learning. That's a great segue to talk about today. We've talked about your past leadership experience. Let's take a look at today. And again, not about companies, not about projects or anything like that, about your journey, your leadership journey still. What's an area where you are learning today? What's an area where you are saying, I haven't arrived yet. There is still room to grow in that area. What's an area?
So I'm being thrust into, as many others are, artificial intelligence
Okay.
and what that is and what it entails. Because I will tell you, up until maybe 2 years ago, I refused use the words AI or artificial intelligence. I said everything's machine learning. It's not or robotic process automation. It's we haven't
Yep.
reached the point of AI, but now I've had to do that. So um, learning about artificial intelligence and all the different applications, learning what agentic is, learning what generative is. Um, Aside from that, I still continue to learn about people because the generations um, learn and they think and they work differently, right? And it's just especially became important when we went 100% remote because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So you take a person that's 20 years old or 25 years old, what motivates them? How are they motivated? They're more of, they like to be involved in things about, save the environment or helping other people or what have you. Take somebody that's in their 30s, right? In that generation, what were they? What motivates them, right? How should you interact with them? 40s and 50s, right? It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
so. As a leader, in order for us to be effective over that group of 20 somethings, right? How should I talk to them? So I spend time reading, watching videos, especially the 20-something-year-olds that do videos that think they understand leadership and this is how you're supposed to talk to us. I watch those and kind of like, okay, here we go. Kind of hard pill to swallow, when I grew up in a generation where kids should be seen and not heard, kind of a thing, right? Yeah, yeah.
I love it. I saw you rolling your eyes there as you're thinking of these videos. Yeah.
That's the one thing I haven't learned how to master is my facial expressions. You know.
When you think of all the leadership tools or skills that you've acquired, is there something where you say this is something you're really strong at? This is a go-to tool that you're using. This is or a fallback tool if everything else fails. I do this with my team. Is there something like that?
Yeah, the way I'm going to answer this, I hope it answers the question. If not, we can explore some more.
Uh huh.
So there's a gentleman that I stayed great friends with. I actually worked with him 2 jobs ago. And we were talking the other day, and he said, the one thing about you that always amazed me that I'm jealous of, that I can't in any way, shape, or form figure out how you stay this way is by always staying positive. No matter what happened, no matter if there was an outage, no matter if a product didn't come in on time, a hardware, software, if something just didn't work, he said you never you never started yelling at people, you never got nervous, you never it's like we're not going to get this done, we're not going to be successful. He said you always stayed really calm, and he said it, and you always found a solution. It might have taken an hour or two, and I willfully tell people I'm not the smartest person in the room. I can't come up with the answer at a moment's notice, but 2 hours later, I'll be like, oh, have we thought about this? I mean, that's me. The workhorse and never the show pony kind of thing. So yeah, I think if anything, maybe this is part of my military experience, maybe this is part of my law enforcement experience, or maybe this is just having been in some really crazy situations over the year, major outages or
Right.
products not showing up on time, or being in that consulting world. Um, And I always tell the team and my leaders, I say, listen, they look to you for guidance. If you're running around, you know, nervous and screaming and
Yep.
don't have answers or don't have guidance or don't give people direction, you know, then you're not being a leader, right? You're not controlling the situation. You're not prioritizing. So have that methodology in your head. Listen, when this goes bad, then I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Or have people that you can go to and say, hey, you're my crisis person. So when this
Mm.
crisis happens, I need you to come in and take over and do these things, right?
Yep.
To help keep people calm, to help with communication, to help make sure you're not missing a question or missing a thought
Yep.
and then, you know, be open to and receptive to information from all levels and all different groups. Because, you know, as we all know, our day jobs aren't what we really want to be doing, right? It's what pays the bills most of the time. So somebody that works as a software developer might have come from an infrastructure background,
Mm.
or you know, somebody in banking that works as a
Mm-hmm.
teller. We don't know what they did before they were a teller, or you know, so they could have an answer. So
Yep.
seek information, be open. Yeah, it's, if one of my strengths or anything that I, you know, I'm told, that's kind of my thing is, you know, not to stress out about things. It's
Yep. Yep.
there's a solution, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll stop with this. I had another CIO mentor boss, and he said, Don, he said, never say no. Just tell somebody what percentage of yes you can give them. And he goes, you'll go a long way in life, and in your senior roles as a CIO and a CISO and a CEO. And he goes, and you'll find that what people think 100% is really is just 60% of the solution. So you don't have to spend all the money. You don't have to spend all the time, you know, and you go in there and they're happy with that 60% and it meets their needs and you move on, right? So that's the never say no. Just tell them what percentage of yes you can give them. And it's
Interesting.
worked for me all the time.
Interesting. What percentage of yes? That's an interesting concept. You know, what I also notice about your answer, right? Being optimistic, being positive, being calm. It's not so much about what you're doing, what you're describing there, but how you show up as a leader. It's talking about the
Yes.
way of being in a given situation, which goes much deeper than pulling out a tool or something like that. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Very true. So, you know, if you look at some of the more successful leaders, you know, they how to, this is kind of the difficult part of leadership, right? Is directing people without really telling them what to do. You know, it's giving them that suggestion, or and then and here's another example. I had another leader. They said, listen, and I, oh my God, I find myself in this position all the time. So, you know, we get a task. You and I might go 1 to 10. You might go 1 to 7 because of your experience, right, and knowledge, and get there quicker. And then the next person comes along and they go 1 to 15. And then so sitting there as a leader and you hear them with their plan and you're like, uh, do I let them go and do this on themselves and let them fail and let them try? And, you know, the answer is yes, as long as they're not going to cost more money, you know, all those kinds of things. But, you know, on the flip side is people don't like leaders that I need you to do this task and here's how you're going to do it. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, then why do you need me? Just, you know, go do it yourself.
Just go and
So
do it.
I've been in a situation,
Yeah.
you know, where I'm like, Rhonda, I need you to go get this done. And she's like, well, how? And I said, go explore,
Yeah.
you know, figure it out and come back and tell me what your plan is, right? Because that's part of it is learning, right? Learning where to
Mm-hmm.
go get the info. And they come back and, okay, very good plan. Might think about looking at this area here and is there a better way you can do it? But ultimately, your decision, go get it done.
Yeah.
And then when they come back, then let's do the after action review and say, listen, you got it done, perfect. Took you 10 steps. You could have got this done in 8, and here's why. But then you got to worry about well, why didn't you tell me that in the beginning? Because I'm going to save so much time. It's like, because what did you learn, right? You learned a way to do it. You learned another way to do it. And you also learned that there's more than one way to do something. And
Yeah.
so it's a lesson in a bunch of ways. But for me as a leader, sitting there trying to keep my mouth shut and not be like, you know, it's a little challenging. But
Yeah.
that's what we're supposed to do as leaders.
Yeah. Got it. Let's take a peek in the future now. and see how future leadership might look like. When you think of yourself, and again, not positions, not companies, but think of yourself in a few years' time, what do you think might be different about the way you lead in 5 years?
The way that I lead in about 5 years. Well, obviously there'll be a few more experiences. I hope,
Hmm.
if I find myself a new role here in the near future. And in my future role, I hope I have a position where I can help make more leaders. I'm at the
Hmm.
point in my life where it's my turn to give back, and it's help to start preparing the future. And it's my turn to start building the people that are going to take over when it's time for me to retire and go play golf or travel or do whatever. So I see my future role, the next 5 to 10 years, as building those people that are going to be the leaders. That's that's where I'm at in my life.
Okay.
So that's what I see. Obviously artificial intelligence, quantum computing is something we're going to have to start learning about. So, you know, I had somebody in the university tell me one time that I was always going to be learning. I would never stop learning, and that stuck with me. And I couldn't
Yeah.
believe that they said that. Now, did that motivate me to keep learning, or did they just realize in me that I would never stop? I don't know. But yeah. So continue to
Okay.
keep learning, so I can continue to mentor others.
Got it. Got it. Let me ask you one last question, Don, and then we're going to land the plane. When you look at how
Okay.
other tech leaders are leading, what's something that you think most should do differently? What's something where you feel there's a pattern to how tech leaders do things, maybe not the best possible way?
Um, how tech leaders do something not the best possible way. So this is me telling me that there's flaws with other people. That's probably not a good thing to be doing on a podcast.
That's a humble way to try
Yeah.
and dodge the
So
question.
try
I'm
to
not gonna.
dodge it. Yeah. Especially if somebody listens to this, interviews me sometime. You're like, so that thing in the podcast. So what do they do wrong? I guess what they do wrong, or what I've seen them do wrong, is try to act as a subject matter expert in an area that is something they should rely on other subject matter experts to provide guidance and advice on, right?
Okay.
So I see leaders, hey, we have a problem, and then they'll sit in a room and they'll solution it. Well, that's not your job as the leader to solution it. Your job is to hire really smart people, and I get this all the time from people. And it's just like, is it really true? I'm not the smartest person in the room, so that's why I hire people smarter than me. Okay, but then you sit in the room and then you try to act like you're the smartest person in the room and you try to solution something. To me, that's
Mm,
kind of it's a bad leadership
yeah.
trait. It's a bad leadership style. Um, so that's the one thing that I see is in micromanaging. That's probably another thing that I see in
Mm,
technology and leadership roles is micromanaging. You have to know everything. You have to be told everything. You don't give the trust and empowerment to people to
mm,
let them make decisions, and that just creates walls, roadblocks, frustration. Yeah, so I would say that's what I see most leaders fall into that. And
got it.
I don't know. Is it because they feel like they need to be the smartest person in the room? They can't say, "Hey, John, that's a great idea. I didn't even think of that." To me, I would say that to somebody because I don't, and I want others to be able to say, "I don't know," or "I have to go research
Yeah.
it." I think that builds stronger teams.
Got it. Don, thank you so much. There are many things that will remain with me. I really like the percent of yes. How much percent of yes
Yeah,
can I say?
that's a good one.
And I also like this saying, treat them well enough so that they can leave all the time and care enough so that they stay. I thought that was also a beautiful
Yeah.
way of framing it. Thank you so much for being here today.
Okay. Thank you.
To everyone else out there, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And most importantly, join us again for our next episode of the Top Innovator series. And until then, keep your brain cells active.